So to any of you who have been watching multiple of these story videos, in which case, stop lying. Oh, you can see it. Same clothes. I'm not, I changed clothes, but this is just something I filmed yesterday. I just didn't feel like having two videos up in one day. So, just something else I needed to talk about. Every once in a while, I talk about things like morals, ethics, philosophy, politics, society. I talk about those things a lot. And at some point, it's because of how I was raised. I get, uh, I somehow accidentally used to go down rabbit holes of learning history, and every once in a while there would be philosophers and politicians somewhere in there, and so I just learned from them. And also the fact that there's a lot of political stuff going on in my household. My dad's a politician, and my mom is, well, both my parents are immigrants, so they have to deal with a lot of stuff in politics that are against them. So I'm just kind of exposed to thinking about that stuff a lot. So it just kind of comes out. So one time I was, because we were at piano, and it got relocated to in elementary school, but it was a private school, pretty much. So what happened was, as we were leaving, my mom then pointed to a group of kids there. It's like, see that? Fishing, doing all those activities. They had Boy Scouts just a few minutes ago. You, you see something in common about all of them? I'm not really sure. I don't see anything out there. They're all white. They are all white Americans over there. I mean, she was right. We got into a conversation where it was like, oh, the private schools are mainly for the white Americans, for Caucasians, and they get so many activities, so many extra things and opportunities to do that others don't. It was like, because these schools that were private were more commonly done for white people, because those ones were prestigious and able to stay up with how expensive they were. They had all the money. So they were able to stay up, while the ones for other minorities often just kind of disappeared. They weren't able to stay up. So those ones stayed, and so they were often more private schools for white kids. And since they were all prestigious like that, they were able to do a lot more activities than others. So it was pretty much since it's like private school, it's helped by the government quite a bit, and so they gave the white kids a lot more activities. I'm not saying they're doing it because they're white, but I'm just saying it's the slightest bit related. But you don't see that very often with schools that are more public and have a lot more diversity. So I guess when I describe it, it's a bit of a coincidence. However, it's a lot of situations, they do give stuff way more to what I'll call nativists. Not natives. Native would imply someone who, not to be derogatory, but would be typically described as red rather than white. But nativist, when I say that, I mean how in colonial times, the term nativist was used by Irish white people who didn't want immigrants to show up because they thought it would be overcrowded. So I'll use that to describe immigrants. What was I talking about again? The specific topic. Oh my god. That's embarrassing. I'll admit. But let me just say, they get it a lot better than everyone else. It's very often, and it kind of does seem like it's been rigged in politics, because even though they got a lot of equality for each race from white to black, it took a lot of time to get a black president. And it's something I see is that I took too much time explaining nativists. I forgot what I was talking about earlier. Anyways, yeah. But something I've noticed is that people will give a lot more credit to black people. There's going to be a lot of credit to white people because they're the majority in this country. But directly under them, a lot of credit is given to black people. And it's mainly because of their huge impact on history. A lot of our farms were helped by them because of bad things we did. So they helped us with farms. Influential. Bad things happen to them. Poor guys get sympathy. We talk about them a lot. They did help a lot of the music to evolve in America. Pretty influential. We talk about them a lot, but we mainly do talk because all of that was caused by terrible things that happened to them in the past. So we have a lot of sympathy for them. Even nowadays, when that stuff isn't happening to them anymore, we give them sympathy. And then what happens to Hispanics? We don't get represented at all, pretty much. What happens is that the main thing that's happening to Hispanics is still currently happening, and I'll admit it's a bit smaller than what happened to black people, but it's still a fairly big thing, especially as it evolved with all of those immigration laws, how they make it fairly unfair to all of them, and it can still be fairly big, because like even after they get citizenship, they move over here and then after a while get citizenship. It's still very difficult for them with pressure. There's a lot of prejudice. But we still think of it as such a simple thing, because we just think base level, they're immigrants, they're not from here, they don't understand this place, so we think they're different. That's just normal prejudice. We shouldn't have to worry too much. Prejudice you should worry about, even if it seems small. But that's just incredibly base level, to the point where they get unrecognized quite a lot. And then because of that, that adds another bad thing that's currently happening to them. That because it's about unrecognition, it doesn't get recognized. I swear to God. I saw on a forum, there's, what's your race? Are you white? Native American? Native Hawaiian? African American? Are you, indigenous? Or, there was no other options actually. It was all of that, and I was looking at that, and I was like, where's Hispanic? Where are the Latinos? Why is that not an option? It's bad enough that's not an option, but it's even worse they didn't have other. So, if you were something other that was off of that list, you couldn't be represented. That means I literally had to say, I am a pure-blood white Caucasian American. I'm not Caucasian. Caucasian refers to the race of white people who are of British descent in America. I am not a single bit British in blood. In fact, looking at white Americans, I don't have that in my DNA, technically. So, I am, like, pretty much full-blown Hispanic. So I can't really put anything else on there. Because in America, I couldn't even, when you look at a white Hispanic, that means of Spanish descent, like Spain and Europe, but then brown is a Hispanic that is related to a native, like the Mesoamericans or the Incans. So even though my dad is brown, I don't think that it really counts as Native American, because I'm pretty sure that just refers to tribes and I think clans maybe, that were all in like the region of the United States and a bit of Canada. That's what it refers to. You can't really do things like the Mesoamericans. So, I really couldn't put anything on that list. We get very unrecognized. And since we were literally at that piano place, uh, my mom was literally saying, "Hey, I'm taking you to piano, and I used to take swimming and karate. I'm trying to give you the same opportunities as them. They get it for not that much money, just going to a private school and that's it. It takes a lot for me to get this. I'm just trying to make things better for you." That's when I realized, I had a realization. It really would be that difficult for someone that's not white to get all these things. But then I realized I'm getting the opportunities of a white person. And I thought, if you try to learn, because what I'm doing already in my own free time when I research things, mainly history, it's oftentimes white history. The Greeks are white, I'd say. A lot of people don't consider Spain, Italy, Greece, they don't consider them white. Some people don't even consider Russia white. All of them are. But it's, most of history is just that. Otherwise, it's stuff that doesn't have many records. So when you learn about things like that, I'm pretty much learning from a lot of white people. And I'm getting the opportunities of a white person. Oh no, am I turning white? That's not what I'm thinking. What I think is, if I just keep doing that, because I heard there was the stereotype. I was taught about the stereotype, oh, Hispanics, very dim-witted. If you say bad things about them, they won't care, because they won't be able to understand what you're talking about. So when I'm doing all this research, I'm pretty much making myself as a Hispanic smarter. And what I'm doing is, I'm pretty much saying a Hispanic can be just as intelligent as a white person. And I'm white. When I say white person, I mean European, white American, stuff like that, Caucasian. A nativist. There's that term again. So they could be equal to a nativist. Give us equality. Why don't we get it as much as some of the other races, you know? And then you might think, why not try and be better? Because if you try and be better, when you're doing this thing, you're kind of imagining, like, if you tried to make it influential so that you could actually get recognized and make other people be recognized. If you're doing this for people to hear, then saying that your race can be better than another one sounds petty. I genuinely don't think any race is better than another. It's just they get treated differently, which is bad. So if you try and make it seem like yours is better than another one, that's petty. But if you try and make it equal, that's a good message. And then the people will be like, hey, I like this idea. This guy is speaking some good stuff. I will listen to it. And then you get the Hispanics recognized. You give them equality to nativists. So, it's a very important thing would be public opinion. In fact, I actually talked to my friend a while ago about something. He was getting bullied a lot, and he was saying, like, if he fought someone, he'd be the one in trouble. And I said, yeah, verbal confrontation can be equal to physical, but the moment that people see physical, they think that's far worse, and then whoever starts the physical stuff is the one that they will all hate, rather than the one who started the verbal stuff, which started the entire confrontation as a whole. It's all about the people's perception of it. They are pretty much the ones that affect everything. It's their perception that makes them have what should be by definition opinions, but them all collectively together kind of make them think of it as a fact, what they believe. So, if you try and make something a bit better, that, like, that comes to the original topic, if you try to say a better idea of making them equal rather than the worst idea, making us better than them, then that changes all the public opinion. If you choose equal, would be that, oh, he has a good message. I like this guy. This guy is good then. oh, fact, this guy is good now. We like this idea. And then something happens. Something I find a little bit funny that I can pretty much use to show Hispanics get very unrecognized. In Spanish Heritage Month, I think they didn't do anything very bad for African American Heritage Month. I think it was called Black History Month, yeah. Black History Month, they did normal stuff. They put posters around for black culture. On the announcements, they said a quote from an African American. It was very nice. They didn't meddle around with it. They meddled around with Hispanic Heritage Month. They didn't see any problem with that. They tried to, because, oh, you don't want to mess with black people. Look at what they've been through. Look what Hispanics have been through. You don't think of that as much. You just think it's the same thing with different skin colors, so you don't need to pay attention. It's not always like that. It could really be anything, with all sorts of things happening. I'm the same skin color as you guys, but different things happen either way. Things you don't recognize. Things you don't acknowledge. Recognize in the sense of acknowledgement rather than remembrance. Familiar. They meddled around with it. I think they were trying to do some sort of political statement, like, hey, why should this month be about one race? Why can't we make it about all minorities? So what they did was, on the announcements, we shall now say the pledge in German. What? We shall now say the pledge in French. These, like, that's weird. Like, the real funny part about it is, oh, they're still doing foreign things. What's wrong with that? Even if it's not Spanish. The worst part about it, those are both Western Europeans. That's white. All white. You wanted to have white people talking about how great white people are to represent Hispanics. Who thought of this? Whose idea was this? And worse enough, the girl on the announcements each day, she's Mexican and knows Spanish, but they got her to say it in German. I swear, the Americans are just being petty now. What's happening with this? Sometimes I'll talk about this because I have a baseline idea of everything I say, but I am pretty much making things up on the fly. You can probably tell with all the, let me reiterate. Yeah, stuff like that. I'm kind of just making them up as I go. But when I do that, I still do have high vocabulary. I like to learn this stuff so that I can seem as good as other people. And also because every once in a while, it just kind of shows up out of nowhere from what I learned. I learn a new vocabulary term. I learn how it's used, and I think, oh, that's useful. So it just kind of, whenever it needs to be used, it shows up in my vocabulary, day-to-day vocabulary. And because of that, every once in a while, it's just like, what does that word mean? What is acknowledge? What's a dad? But, so it's kind of strange, because English, yes, it's my main language, but the bad side of that is it's also my second language. I'm not good in my first language, and so I'm in a second language that every once in a while I do kind of make a mistake in. So I try to learn more, and then I get high vocabulary to the point where people who are having this as a first language and know nothing else, cannot use anything else to describe things, don't even understand half the things I'm saying. It's very funny, to be honest. I literally said, stop badgering me. He's like, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. What's a badgering? You probably don't know what badgering means. But that is kind of strange. Every once in a while, I do just kind of attempt to describe something in another language, because every once in a while I'll realize there's an idea that cannot be replicated with English vocabulary, not even vernacular. So every once in a while, I do pull out something I learned from another language. I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but there's quite a few that my friends are like, what is that word? And I fully understand. Yeah, you don't know what that word is at all. There's no reason for you to. Another 20-minute long video I see. Uh-oh.